was the best cake fight I've ever been in. Utterly brilliant. I've still yet to find out who I sent my dry cleaning bill to.
It was one of the things in my life I will never, ever forget. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was the talk of the school. I was the only one there from the school that had done it. Not long after that, did the classic thing, formed a band, and I worked in sales. I joined the police. I did that for a long time, but I'm always happy to talk about seeing the Pistols.
Bring out the bottle, bring on the cheer. Mr. Bartender, I'll have another beer. Tomorrow I'll be hurting when that awful pain begins. The wheels fell off the wagon and I'm getting wild again.
I remember watching the adults get completely paralytic, which was fun for me because that meant I could put the records on the old dance set. No one else is capable of putting the records on. I'll take over. And I'm in my own universe. And I'm looking at the labels. And, oh, it's the Kinks. Ha ha! You really got me.
The concert tonight from the Kinks, ladies and gentlemen.
And I've had such a love of music ever since. Christmas meant, yippee, they'd give us a baby sham and maybe a Warnings Advocaat mixed with lemonade called a snowball. Girly drinks, but when you're 5 years old, ooh, that knocks your socks, you know? And then later, when the party's over and you can creep back in and talk to your mum and dad when all their friends are left, you could have a little tipple of Guinness. Ah, that's Christmas. I wouldn't be drinking today if it wasn't for my parents. Kids need to be introduced slowly, subtly, but definitely into the adult world. Don't deny that these things go on, and don't say that's not for you, because when you do that to a young kid, that young kid is going to make damn well sure it's for him, her, or them.
As darkness fell that Christmas day, young punks and Luddites from Wakefield, Bradford and Leeds began the long march across the moors of West Yorkshire.
Get off my land!
That's where you go. And you get on that road there. Over my dead body, old madam. There's a road there. Go on, get up that road.
Down through the dark satanic mills of Horbury and Halifax to the sanctuary of Ivanhoe's in Huddersfield itself.
Just another normal, boring, nothing day, like every other Christmas day. And the Queen's speech came on, and we just thought, oh no, not this again. Her message was no longer relevant. It was the Sex Pistols' message that was more important. So we just set off walking to Huddersfield to see Sex Pistols. I remember it being 16 mile, but it's only 9 mile now, but it took us 3 hours. No trains.
Couldn't afford a taxi.
Couldn't afford a taxi. Nobody had any cars at that hour. We were too young. He was only 15 hours, just turned 17, so walking was the only option.
We broke so many laws that day because it was illegal to play on Christmas. It was illegal to buy a beer. Can you imagine that?
As we got to the gig, there was about 5 or 6 punks, maybe 10, and it was them that told us the gig had sold out. So we just sat down on the floor because we were tired from walking, and then somebody brought some sandwiches out that were left over from the party in the afternoon. Malcolm got us in the gig, yeah, he said the Pistols wouldn't play unless you let these half a dozen punks in the gig.
Got ya. We're all fucking drunk, just like you should be. Let's have some up here. You gonna have a good time or what? How else can you avoid Christmas but for a bottle of fucking booze? Can you think of a better way to spend Christmas?
John's still in a good mood. Sid's focused. I think I'm Johnny Thunders. It's good footage, this.
When, as the Pistols, we first went up north, it was unbelievable, the hatred for, like, oh, you southern softies, you cockney bastards, and it'd be just the four of us dealing with, you know, up to 300, like, you know, full-on firms, turning up at gigs wanting to smash our heads in. But, you know, we piled through that.
A lot of good things came out of the Pistols for me. I was going to football, and the only time I ever met anybody from another city, there was just a big punch-up, you know, and I'd rather get on with people. And what I loved about the old punk scene was it didn't matter where you come from.
Punks started to merge together from different parts of the country, and they became us, not us and them anymore, just us. Places like Huddersfield is an absolute proof of that.
I hitchhiked all over the country watching loads of other bands, and whatever city I landed in, as soon as you met punks, they'd put you up for a weekend. It felt like there was something special. People were coming together with some kind of union going on, things were changing.
But we all realised we're all going through the same nonsense here. Why are we fighting each other? We found out who the real enemy is. Turned our weapons on those that need to be turned onto.
I think the Pistols broke a lot of taboos. Gender is another one that they burned down, and racial issues. It was about being inclusive, not exclusive. It didn't matter what your sexual orientation was, what nationality you are, where you lived or anything. You know, and they were the first band that made that happen.
All we had in mind was to view each other as equals. Creativity and equalness for everyone and anything. Bring Babylon down.
1, 2, 3, 4! To Leiden afterwards, and he seemed really relaxed and friendly and that, and we spoke to him for about half an hour. I think he came up to Chris and he tried to tap a fag off his dinner. For him to just walk up and start talking to us and talking to you like he was just your best mate, there was no I'm in a band, you're little pleb who's come to see us. There was like a respect, a common bond type thing. He said to us, if we play any gigs in London, come along and we'll try and get you in and that. That struck a massive chord with me personally. Who's the song? Who are you? How many Maggie Thatchers are there?
know I don't remember a lot, but I was totally aware we were doing a show for firemen who'd been on strike and they was skint. And I was happy I was doing it, and it got me out of my own head for a few hours. Saying that, I was still miserable. To be honest with you, I was kind of depressed most of the time and just used to drown it with booze. I was just trying to escape. I don't know where I was trying to escape to, but I really didn't like being in my own skin. It doesn't matter what band you're in or what you got going on the outside. If you're a lonely soul inside and you try to cover it with booze and sex and drugs, that's not a solution. It might look like I was having a good time. People think you're having the best time of your life. You're in a big band and it's all going on, but I'm sure when I used to watch Top of the Pops and watch Sweet performing a song, I bet one of them was miserable too.
Not like that now, though.
No, I'm not. I'm happy as a clam right now. That's why I whistle so good. I get glimpses of what it was like back then and how unhappy I was as a 21, 22-year-old guy who had no tools on how to live, no education from my parents or at school.